or maybe even the player or the team, because that's basically load management. They're letting the player not play, right? Like, and you get fined for that.
I also wanted to bring up a point about the bad boys, like how Dennis Rodman was a big part of that, and they were just
He was.
they were so ruthless on the floor, and
Yeah, I mean some of those clips, that footage is just insane. I mean, like what would happen if like LeBron James and Giannis just started doing that in today's game? It's unimaginable. It's unimaginable.
And also when the Bulls finally beat the Pistons, they didn't shake their hands, and that was very confusing to me.
And Michael Jordan thought that was so disrespectful, and it just shows how disrespectful it was, because when Michael Jordan won his first NBA championship, he was hugging with Magic Johnson, which shows
he's very arrogant. He's very selfish. He's undisciplined.
But I actually disagree with that.
Yeah, I disagree also.
I actually disagree with that a lot, actually.
He wasn't arrogant. He was perceived as arrogant.
Yeah, I thought he was perceived as arrogant, and I thought this documentary actually helped lift that stereotype of him.
Yeah.
Because, I really thought, he, once Mike kind of put him in place, he was really a good player. And, when he came back to work after Las Vegas, he was disciplined. He would study so hard, the tapes. He would work so hard.
Yeah, like Drew said, I think this the show helps it show that he was not, in any words, he was not arrogant. He said he like wore all the crazy clothes, he had all the crazy hair colors, and he said he just wanted to be a kid. Like,
right, it was just his style. But I think as far as discipline wise, and his respect for the game, and like his willingness to win, I thought that was off the charts, and I thought that was so interesting to see, because I never thought that just that I've heard stories and stuff. Once I've really seen this documentary, it really changed my perspective on him and that whole team. So it's definitely something we're going to continue to talk about through the next couple weeks, as there's a lot more to come in this documentary, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I just hate how the media I don't know, they were just all over him. And I think this documentary helps him in many ways now, and changes the perception on everyone about Dennis Rodman, because it shows how he's a really good teammate, and he's really disciplined and wants to get to work.
Yeah, I also think this really shows how much the media can perceive a person to be what they're not.
Right, exactly. And that's a global sports issue, with the media, and what things get out that aren't always true. And I think this documentary, with all the behind the scenes footage, really shows you the true characters of some of these players, and not just what you're.
I see your point. I really do see your point, but I gotta honor my statement. I do believe he's a little arrogant, but I do see your point.
So this brings us to our next topic here, and our next topic is the NFL free agency. And the first thing I want to talk about within this broad idea and event, I would consider an event. It's been going on for, I'd say a month now. And first thing is Jameis Winston goes to the Saints. Initial reactions.
I think this is a really great move by both sides. I think Jameis Winston, last year, he has glimpses of being great. But on the other side, he gets about 3 turnovers almost every single game. But he threw for the most touchdowns. He threw for the most yards. It shows that he can be amazing. And Drew Brees is going to help him become what the number 1 pick was supposed to be a few years ago when he was drafted number 1. And I also think this is great for the Saints, because they, after losing Teddy Bridgewater, who was undefeated as a starter last year as a backup for them, they got a good backup who's an NFL starter. Who could be an NFL starter on any team, I believe.
I agree with you there. And Jameis Winston's one of my favorite players for many reasons. One, he went to Florida State, and I'm a giant Florida State fan. But the main reason is he has so much raw talent that if he's under the right mentor, like Drew Brees, a version who has a very similar playing style to him, I believe Jameis Winston could be maybe even a Super Bowl winner. Maybe he could be a champion.
I'm not.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
Jameis,
exactly agree
Jameis,
on you
Jameis said
having the
earlier in
same.
the week, he said that going to New Orleans is like attending the Harvard of football. He said it was like attending the Harvard of football. And, that's really interesting because, just think it's really interesting. He obviously, realizes and, respects like the advice he's going to be getting. And I think he's got the right attitude going in. But someone whose attitude could be changing is Taysom Hill because, they're bringing in Winston. And now that's pushing him back. But that pushes him back to the 3 spot. And my question is, obviously he's going to play other positions. He returns kicks, he blocks punts, he plays receiver, he does running back, he does so many other different things. But something tells me that, that guy, he wants a fair shot at being a quarterback. And, Taysom Hill, what are you thinking about, like, your future in New Orleans or in another team in this league?
Yeah, I don't agree with you there, Drew, because I don't think Taysom Hill really was going to be a quarterback. I mean, he has so much athletic ability. I mean, if he's going to be returning kicks and that, he can't be a quarterback because if he's going to lose so much, he's going to.
But he wouldn't be a quarterback. He would not be a quarterback if he was starting for a team. He would not be returning. He would not be returning kicks if he was starting for an NFL team. But he's third string and he's got a lot of athleticism, so they're going to use it in some way. So they'll throw him in there. And
I know he's paid.
Kicks.
He was paid for his value though, because he has very good athletic ability. So I mean, that's why he was paid that much. But
I personally think, and he's shown it in that Minnesota game. He made some great throws. He's shown that he can be a good quarterback, and I personally think.
I
think he could be a good backup, though. I think he could be a good backup.
I think Taysom Hill, obviously, he has the athleticism to basically do anything. I think the Saints kind of use him as like almost like a puppet. They just throw him in there, like you do this, and he does exactly that. Sure, he's made some good throws.
It's also a distraction. Whenever he comes in, you're expecting something to happen with him, and they can just bring him in as a distraction.
Mm-hmm. Sure, he's made some good throws, but I still don't think he's what he thinks he is. He thinks he's a starting quarterback, but he's only made like 10 NFL throws, which concerns me. And I think
he deserves a fair shot, especially after.
I think he deserves a fair shot, but still, I don't think he's at the point where he should be getting the money as a good starting quarterback.
No, but I'm saying, but that just sets him. But that just sets him back. It's not like, if Breeze, but it just shows that they want someone else in that system besides him. So it shows that they don't think he could be a backup at this point, and they need someone else in the system because realistically, if Breeze gets hurt, Winston's coming in. So I personally think that what I was expecting, when Winston got signed, I thought Hill would be, on another team being a true second string because I think that's where he is right now. But obviously, I think he's third string right now.
Yeah, I think with Jameis Winston, it also shows how much he wants to be on the team. He's only getting paid this year $1.1 million and up to $3.4 million with incentives. That's not a lot of money for a quarterback who led the NFL in passing and in touchdowns, also in interceptions. But still, I think he shows how much he wants to learn from one of the greatest quarterbacks ever.
Yeah, and Taysom Hill, I think he's in a good place right now. He's a very good weapon for the Saints, and when he's on the field, the defense should be prepared. They should always put a second man on him because he could really make a play, and I think he's in a good place, and I don't really view him as a quarterback. I view him as a dual threat.
I mean, he's the best all-around person I've ever seen in the NFL so far. And I don't view him as a quarterback at all. Like, he's not supposed to be a second string. He was paid for his value as an athlete, and he can move to like tight end, wide receiver. He can play quarterback if like the blitz is too hard on Drew Brees. He can do like anything really.
But they paid him as an athlete. But that doesn't mean
he's not going to be a quarterback, though.
It doesn't mean that he should be an athlete. The Saints view him as someone that they can use, at a lot of different positions.
Yeah.
But I personally believe he's quarterback talent. He should be a quarterback, and that's just my opinion.
I also think Taysom Hill. I think he'll be happy with his $21 million for 2 years. I think he'd happily get a little less snaps if he's making $21 million over 2 years.
Yeah. So the next person I want to talk about in the free agency is someone we touched on a little bit earlier, Cam Newton. Where do you guys think he's going to end up? Because he's still hanging around. Obviously, the Patriots are an option, but even there's definitely other teams who just. I mean, he could end up being a backup. I mean, that's really could be where he can end up. But what do you guys think is going to happen?
I think he's going to end up at the Patriots. I said that earlier, but I believe he will end up at the Patriots because the Patriots need really a good experience playoff quarterback right now who could really help them after losing Tom Brady. And Cam Newton, I really like that kid, and I feel like
not exactly a kid anymore.
I do. I really like him. I really like his playing style, and I think he's going to go to the Patriots.
Yeah, I think there's many different options. I think the best option for him would be the Patriots, but he could just he could sign a good amount of money for a team that he can just be a backup for. Maybe he can turn into the next Ryan Tannehill, like what Ryan Tannehill did last year. He got traded to the Titans to be their backup, and he ended up this offseason getting a gigantic deal.
Yeah, so I have 2 options for him here, but I'm actually going to go with the Steelers right now because Ben Roethlisberger is at like the ending stages of his career, and they can't rely on Mason Rudolph to lead them. Like you've already seen him play. He hasn't been he can't get to the next level, and I think he definitely fits in the Mike Tomlin offense. So yeah, the Steelers have been struggling, and I think if they need an MVP quarterback, they should get Cam Newton right now.
And you don't know the health of Big Ben. I mean, he was hurt, and then Rudolph was hurt, and then they were with Duck Hodges. But they also have a pretty talented team. I mean, they really managed to have a pretty good.
Their defense was amazing, though.
Yeah, to have a pretty good, decent year considering the circumstances. And another thing we should talk about is Jadeveon Clowney is still not signed anywhere. Where do you guys think he would go?
I think he's going to go to the Eagles because Eagles need a pass rusher, and I got a good feeling about that, and fits in their scheme, and I got a good feeling.
I think Jadeveon Clowney, he's asking for a lot of money. He's still unsigned, and it's been about a month and a half since free agency started, and he's still asking for the same money he was asking for the first day of free agency. He's asking for about $20 million and teams. I think he needs to realize that almost every single team is not willing to pay $20 million for a guy who, sure, he had an all right season, but he hasn't proved yet that he can be one of the best edge rushers in the league. He may be top 5 or top 10. That's up to discussion, but I think he needs to be paid more like $10 to $15 million. It's still a lot of money, but I think he could end up going back to the Seahawks. But honestly, I don't see that happening. I think he could go if he wants to take more of a pay cut. Well, $10 million isn't really a pay cut, but I think I could see him going to either the Giants or the Dolphins.
No, I think he's going to go to the Seahawks. I'm going to stick with what I said last episode because he said he wanted to play with a title contender. That's the Seahawks. And the Seahawks are, I mean, that's the best he's going to get is around 10 to 15 million. So, and the Seahawks, I think they'll stick with him because he hasn't had a double-digit sack career yet, a sack season yet. So I think he's going to go to the Seahawks.
And Gabe, tell them to